I'll tell you the truth. If I close my eyes, I can still hear the screen door slam against the July air, smell the cut grass and hot asphalt after a sudden rain, and feel the elastic sting of a tube sock as I lace up my scuffed-up waffle trainers for a twilight jog that would carry me past porch lights, sprinklers, and the sweet drift of someone else's peach cobbler cooling on a windowsill. We didn't call it cardio. We called it getting out of the house, turning our faces to the breeze, and running until the day's noise spilled out of our heads. And in those years, my years, the 1970s, healthy didn't mean apps or macros. It meant things you could touch and taste and do. Glass bottles clinking in a metal carrier, a sun-warmed tomato from a backyard vine, a neighbor waving from a Schwinn, a paper bag of bulk oats and raisins from the co-op, shoes dusty from a park path where every lamppost felt like a finish line. Hello and welcome. This is Retro America, where I share my love for the past and the timeless stories, sounds, and spirit that shaped us. If you're new, subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss our next journey. Back then, health wasn't a competition or a brand. It was a rhythm that lived inside ordinary days. We learned it from mothers who packed lunch in wax paper and fathers who came in the door smelling like honest work. From gym teachers who blew a whistle and called it the presidential fitness test. From radio DJs who spun a song that made you walk a little faster. And from the way the town looked at dusk, soft amber windows and the promise of supper if you could just make it home by 6. The best ideas about food and fitness weren't secret or severe. They were stubbornly practical and quietly joyful. And if you listen, you can still hear them humming beneath everything we do now. 1. The jogging boom, lacing up before the street lights flicked on. Before running was a glossy culture, it was a simple rebellion against the sofa. The word jogging hit like a friendly dare. You didn't need a membership, a heart rate strap, or a mirror bigger than a garage door. You needed a pair of shoes, a decent cassette mixtape, if you were fancy, and the nerve to shuffle that first block. Kenneth Cooper had already lit the fuse in '68 with a little book called Aerobics. But it was in the '70s that the sidewalks truly filled. Housewives in windbreakers, dads in high school tees, teenagers tugging on striped socks because their coach said, "Go easy, go steady, go often." By '77, Jim Fix's The Complete Book of Running turned every cul-de-sac into a track. We weren't chasing PRS. We were chasing a feeling. Lungs like bellows, calves singing, the glow that sat on your cheeks for hours afterward. If you saw another jogger, you raised a hand. No slogans, no hashtags, just kinship at 6 miles per hour. 2. Salad bars and the good kind of abundance. Inside steakhouses and family restaurants, a new kind of frontier appeared. Clean ice, crisp lettuce, a parade of chilled crocks, beets, chickpeas, cottage cheese, sunflower seeds. The salad bar felt democratic and a little glamorous. The sneeze guard gleamed. The tongs were a promise. You could build green on green, fling in wedges of hard-boiled egg, drizzle oil that actually looked like oil, and walk back to your booth a little taller. Nobody announced, "I'm being healthy." The plate said it for you, a cold mountain that snapped when your fork found it. The best were the mom-and-pop buffets or the sideboard at a town club, iceberg and romaine, yes, but also carrot shavings, crunchy sprouts, and little cups of red wine vinegar that bit like good advice. 3. The co-op, the health food store, and the paper bag gospel. By mid-decade, every college town and half the suburbs sprouted a storefront that smelled like toasted grain and honest intention. Inside, scoops clattering in galvanized bins, gravity dispensers sighing out granola like a small avalanche, glass jars of peanut butter you ground yourself while the machine grumbled like a friendly tractor. There were brown eggs in gray cartons, yogurt tangy enough to remind you it was alive, and herbal teas with labels you had to read twice. We discovered wheat germ because the clerk said, "Sprinkle a tablespoon on your oatmeal." And we did. We bought brown rice and coffee cans and learned that patience is a flavor. We said hello to carob, bless its heart, and decided it tasted better if you believed. 4. Bikes everywhere, 10 speeds flashing in the sun. There was a bicycle boom, pure and simple. Your Schwinn or Rowley leaned against every porch rail in the neighborhood like a faithful dog. You learned the quick rattle of a pump, the hiss of the Presta valve, the satisfying click when a cable finally obeyed. The bike gave you a longer map of your town. Beyond the blocks you could run, out past the water tower and the feed store, down to the creek where the cottonwoods cooled the air. Health on a bike didn't feel like discipline. It felt like speed with a breeze in it. A bandana tied at your neck, a baseball cap backwards under your helmet, if you wore one at all, calves laced with road grit, a pocket stuffed with gorp, good old raisins and peanuts that tasted like a treat and a plan all at once. 5. The kitchen was a gym you could eat from supper. Happened because somebody loved you enough to start in the afternoon. The cutting board was a metronome. Chop, scrape, sizzle, stir. A stock pot murmured on the back burner like a friendly neighbor. We ate dinners that knew where they came from. Broiled fish with lemon wedges, chicken roasted until the skin snapped, vegetables that squeaked against your teeth because they'd only just met the steam. Portions were respectful. A piece of meat that fit the plate with room for everything else. Potatoes you could count. A salad that didn't drown. Dessert had manners. Sliced fruit, a small square of spice cake, a dish of vanilla from the corner dairy, and we ate together, which is its own food group. Stories slowed our forks. Someone asked for seconds. Someone told a joke. Someone said grace because it felt right to say thank you in a world with pie. 6. Breakfast that could hold a morning. Mornings smelled like coffee from a percolator and toast from a toaster that glowed like a tiny furnace. We didn't skip breakfast. It felt like leaving the house barefoot. Oatmeal, proper and patient, stood in for a cold day, slicked with a teaspoon of honey that knew when to stop. Eggs did their trampoline trick in a skillet, edges froth just a little. Grapefruit halves wore broiler kisses, sprinkled with the barest lace of sugar. On special Saturdays, there were whole wheat pancakes that tasted like someone meant well and succeeded. The orange juice came from oranges, sometimes squeezed with a squeaky glass reamer that looked like a sunny crown. We drank milk with a cream line and never argued with its authority. 7. Water, sun, and shoes, our simple gear list. We hydrated with a tall glass from the kitchen sink, the old kind that fogged on the outside and clinked like a bell against your teeth. We went outside for our vitamins, sun on the forearms, shade when it got serious, hats that knew their job. Shoes mattered because feet mattered. You measured the miles by how your arches felt and learned that a little soreness can be a friend, the kind that tells the truth and leaves you better than it found you. We didn't chase perfect numbers. We noticed honest signals. sleep that arrived easily, a shirt collar that didn't pinch, a morning mirror that said, "You look like yourself." 8. The quiet superstars, beans, greens, and the modest plate. We discovered that thrift is a kind of nutrition. Beans soaked overnight became supper with onions and courage. Greens wilted with garlic and a twist of lemon could steal the show from any roast. Brown rice, chewy, stubborn, loyal, sat beneath everything like a handshake. Nuts hid in our pockets, apples rolled in lunch pails, and cottage cheese behaved itself on a leaf of lettuce like an old friend paying a call. We didn't pile food like a dare. We gave it space, and it gave us comfort. 9. Weight Watchers meetings and the warm mathematics of progress. By the early 70s, church basements and community rooms had their own calendar, nights when folding chairs made a circle, and someone set out a coffee urn big enough to baptize a small choir. People came with notebooks and nervous jokes. They weighed in, they listened, they told the truth about weekends. There was a chart on a wall and a chorus of applause for a pound of progress. The science was simple, and the support was real. No one was a product. Everyone was a person. You left those rooms lighter in a way the scale couldn't measure, with recipes scribbled on index cards. Tuna with celery and lemon, cabbage soup that tasted like a reset, baked apples with cinnamon that made a Tuesday feel like a victory lap. 10. Pritikin and the low-fat illumination. Around the time disco balls were catching fire over dance floors, Nathan Pritikin was catching fire in kitchens, convincing folks that trimming fat and courting fiber could change the way a body felt inside its own bones. People came home from the library with spines cracked open to charts and arrows, and they tried it. Leaner cuts, broths that clarified, whole grains that kept the fork honest. Not everybody stayed, but plenty learned that the road to light didn't have to be joyless. It could be a bowl of barley studded with vegetables, a stew that cleared like a sunrise, a habit of reading labels as if your future had good handwriting. 11. Jack LaLanne, YMCA pools, and community as a muscle. Our TVs had a morning evangelist of push-ups in a jumpsuit, and if you tried even half of what he did, you laughed, and then you perspired, and then you felt awake in a way coffee couldn't deliver. The YMCA smelled like chlorine and second chances. We swam awkward laps that got smoother by June. We lifted weights that complained politely. We took saunas that made the bones sigh. There were hand-lettered signs for Family Fitness Night, and somebody's dad taught a class on Saturday mornings called Stretch and Strength because he'd read a book and wanted to help. Health lived in those rooms as surely as basketballs did. 12. Title IX and the sound of sneakers that belong to everyone. If you want to hear a decade growing wiser, listen for a gym with new voices in it. After 72, girls' teams multiplied like good news. Cross-country rosters filled, tracks thrummed, and a whole new rhythm stepped onto school buses before dawn. The culture learned right in front of its own mirrors that strength is not a boys-only club. That mattered at home, at dinner, in the way younger brothers watched older sisters lace shoes and head out into a fall that smelled like possibility. 13. Portions with posture. How plates taught manners. Dinner plates were modest, and they made their point. Restaurants still behaved like grown-ups. The steak didn't crowd the potatoes, and the roll didn't ask to be a meal. Sodas came in sizes that left room for conversation. At the movies, Popcorn was a companion, not a calling. We felt full when we had enough, not when the tray was a dare. And there was a sweet mercy to leftovers, becoming lunch, becoming soup, becoming proof that patience can taste like planning. 14. The snack with a conscience, yes, we snacked. But the best snacks felt like a walk with a friend. Apple slices with a smear of peanut butter, a small handful of nuts that clicked against your palm, a cup of yogurt tart enough to make your tongue salute. Trail mix in a zip bag, raisins, peanuts, a few chocolate chips if the day had been a saint, crackers that broke cleanly, cheese that told you which barn it knew. The difference was not austerity. It was intention. You ate a snack and then you stopped, because dinner wasn't a rumor. It was a promise. 15. Weekends that worked and worked out. Saturday belonged to chores that asked your body to show up, raking leaves into a lake of color, pushing a mower that hummed like an old friend, scrubbing a porch until the wood blushed, washing a car until it flashed a grin. We moved because life included movement, and the payment was instant. The smell of cut grass, the shine of a hood, a glass of iced tea sweating on a railing, while the sun did its slow gold thing across your yard. Sometimes we played. Tennis on cracked asphalt courts with nets that sagged, softball on fields sized for bragging, pickup basketball, where the only coach was a stubborn rim. Sweat meant you'd earned your shower. Soreness meant tomorrow would feel even more like yours. 16. Bedtime as a secret coach. We didn't call it sleep hygiene. We called it turning off the lamp and listening to the house settle. Supper came early enough that your stomach was already telling stories when your head found the pillow. You could trace constellations in ceiling cracks, count the stitches in the curtain hem, hear a train carry its own night down the tracks. We slept because days were full and the dark was kind. Morning greeted us with a chorus of robins and a reason to lace the shoes again. 17. The park as a prescription. Every town had a park whose gravel paths remembered your name. The city planted trees and trust. You supplied the footsteps. There were pull-up bars chipped by generations of good intentions, benches for stretches and confidences, and a loop around the pond where the geese heckled and the turtles lined up like coins. We ran there, walked there, pushed strollers there, counted ducks because counting breaths would have made it a job. If the sun was up, the park was open. That was the law, and it was merciful. 18. A season for everything. Eating with the calendar strawberries in June, sweet corn in August, apples that snapped like a joke in October, oranges crated into the kitchen when winter needed a lantern. We didn't chase blueberries in February. We loved them enough to wait. Waiting made the flavor louder. The body understood the calendar and said, "Thank you," in its own quiet grammar. Energy that lasted, cravings that behaved, a gratitude you could taste. 19. Grandma's rules, modern joy. We smuggled old wisdom into a new world. Chew slowly, share freely, go outside, come home on time. We learned that you can love a burger and still love your heart if you give the bun a partner in lettuce and a walk afterward. We learned that dessert belongs to those who listen for the word enough and hear it with a smile. We learned that the best diets are manners taught to appetite, not handcuffs. 20. Today's toys, yesterday's spirit. I'm glad for your fancy watches that tell you your pulse is proud of you, for your phones that play 100 songs while you jog past the same 3 porch lights I once did. Keep them, but keep this too. The 1970s truth that health is not a punishment, but a permission. Permission to move like you belong to the sidewalk, to cook like you vote for yourself with every chopped onion, to eat in company and let conversation be the slowest, sweetest sauce. If you make your plate look like a promise and keep it, I swear the mirror will call you by your better name. And if you ever forget, come with me. Lace the old shoes, tie them double, take that first block easy. When the street lights wake up one by one, you'll smell someone's supper. You'll hear a dog decide you're a friend, and you'll remember that once upon a decade, we figured out how to be well by doing ordinary things with extraordinary care. That decade can still borrow your feet for a while. It pays you back in breath, and it never misses a payment. So here's my short list written in the margins of memory. Eat close to the kitchen. Drink water that looks like water. Let greens surprise you. Grant beans a seat at the table. Own a breakfast. Honor a bedtime. Take your bike as far as your curiosity can afford. Run slow enough to see the world wave back, and never underestimate the miracle of a plate that isn't in a hurry. That was our 70s secret. If you carry even half of it into your own week, you'll feel a familiar wind at your back. Call it nostalgia. Call it common sense. Call it health with a human face. I'm grateful for every porch, every co-op scoop, every salad bar nestled in a bed of ice like treasure, every YMCA lane line, every curb that taught my calves a little patience. Those are the places I became the person who still believes a good life is the sum of small, repeatable kindnesses to the body. And I still raise a hand when I pass another runner, even if I'm just walking now. It's our old sign from a time when we discovered that the shortest distance to feeling better was any road that began at our own front door. Thank you for spending this time in retro America with me. If this trip through the moments and habits that shaped our lives made you smile, consider subscribing, liking, and turning on notifications so we can explore more together. And tell me in the comments which decade holds your fondest memories. The classic 50s, the transformative 60s, or the bold, changing 70s.